MAT 1033 Final Exam Review, questions 41 and 42. Number 41, the directions are the same for both. Factor completely. I've got 6x squared minus 5x minus 4, and the first thing I check is the GCF, and it's 1. It's a trinomial, so I'm going to try to find two binomials whose product is the trinomial. 6x squared must be split up. The middle term is an x term, so I know I'm going to have x and x, and then I've got to decide how to split 6 into two factors whose product is 6. So let's try 2 and 3. Okay, and then because this is a subtracted middle term, subtracted last term, last times last is a negative, so I know one of them is going to be plus 1 minus. And then I've got a couple of pairs I could choose from, 1 and 4 and 2 and 2. So let's try 2 and 2. And when I FOIL this, I get 6x minus 4x for the middle. That's not going to give me negative 5x in the middle. So this is not the factored form. So let's try another pair. This is the trial and error method of factoring. 2x and 3x, again plus and minus. Let's try 4 and 1. Let's put 1 here and 4 there. Okay, inside, outside, so this is 3x and that's minus 8x. And when you sum the middle, you get negative 5x. So this is the factored form of the polynomial. Now, you notice that when I FOIL it, I didn't do first times first and last times last. I know that those products give me the first and last terms. That's where I got the factors from. Okay, and then if I look at problem number 42, it is to factor completely as well. I've got a binomial. The GCF is where I always start. GCF is 4, so this time I can factor out of 4. Then I have to decide, is it factored completely? Well, 4 is a factor. I factored that out. That's GCF. This is a difference of squares. So the difference of squares, remember we have a pattern. We've got x and x, and then plus and minus, and the square root of 4 would be the two factors that we would use. And if you multiply this together, you will end up with 4x squared minus 16. MAT 1033 Final Exam Review, question 43. We are to factor completely 8x cubed minus 1. And we start with the GCF. The GCF is 1. We analyze the polynomial. It is a binomial, and it's a difference. So it's either a difference of squares, a squared minus b squared, or it's a difference of cubes, a cubed minus b cubed. If it's one of those forms, then we can factor it. Well, it doesn't appear to be a squared because x is to the third power, so it may be a difference of cubes. And to factor a difference of cubes, remember it's a minus b, a squared times a squared plus ab plus b squared. So I have to come up with a base that's been cubed for the first term and the second term. And when we look at this, we need something that's been cubed here and something that's been cubed here. Okay, and there's a difference there. So what times itself gives us 8? Well, that would be 2. And then, of course, x times x is x cubed. And then 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. So we do have a difference of cubes. Wherever there is an a in the pattern, I'm going to substitute in the 2x. Wherever there's a b in the pattern, I'm going to substitute in 1. So what I'm going to end up with is a binomial times a trinomial. Looks a lot like this, but instead of a, I'm going to put 2x, and instead of b, I'm going to put 1. Okay, this would be subtraction. The operations are already set. This is plus and this is plus. Okay, now in the first position in the trinomial is a squared, so whatever I put first, the base, I've got to square it. So I'm going to end up with 4x squared. Then it's the product of a and b, so 1 times 2x, and then b squared, which is 1 squared. Then if I simplify, I've got 2x minus 1 times 4x squared plus 2x plus 1. And that's the factored form of the original binomial. Check it by multiplying.